Four kings whose reigns were built on torture, terror, and unthinkable human suffering. These aren't just stories of battlefields, they're tales of systematic brutality, wielded as a tool of power. First, Vlad the Impaler, Prince of Wallachia, reigned 1448. Vlad III, better known as Vlad the Impaler, mastered psychological warfare through barbaric spectacle. He believed terror was the greatest deterrent. So here's what he did. Forest of the Impaled. After defeating an Ottoman raiding party, Vlad impaled over 20,000 prisoners along the road to his capital. Ottoman envoys reported marching through a forest of stakes, rows upon rows of corpses with arms stiff and mouths agape. Selective impalement. Nobles who plotted against him were treated privately. Their families were forced to witness the slow agony, a sharpened stake driven up through the victim's rectum, pushing into the abdomen until the sufferer starved over days. Dismemberment tactics. Peasants who failed to deliver on grain quotas saw their limbs hacked off and left to bleed. Whole villages would wake to empty fields and rotting bodies at their thresholds. Vlad's reign was as much about rumor as reality. Whispered tales of mass impalements spread faster than any army. It's estimated that these terror tactics kept Wallachia relatively stable. Fear, after all, can be a brutal peacekeeper. 2. Ivan the Terrible, Tsar of Elros, reign 1547. Ivan IV's moniker, Terrible, stems from the Oprichnia, his private secret police. Public mutilations. In Novgorod, 1517, Ivan ordered the massacre of suspected traitors. Eyewitness accounts describe children impaled on church doors and priests slaughtered in the altar. Estimates range from 10,000 to 16,000 slaughtered in a single week. Oprichniki torture chambers. These black-robed agents operated makeshift dungeons in the Kremlin's basements. Victims were chained to wooden horses and branded with hot irons. Some were left dangling by their thumbs overnight to reflect on their loyalty. Familial bloodshed. In a fit of rage, Ivan struck his son Anter with a staff, fracturing his skull. The boy died days later. Russian chronicles blame a conspiracy among courtiers, but many believe Ivan intended to eliminate any threat to his uncontested rule. By the end of his reign, Russia had expanded eastward, but at the cost of a populace living in perpetual dread of midnight arrests and disappearing neighbors. 3. Henry VIII, King of England, reign 1509 to 1547. Henry VIII's court combined showmanship with savage punishment. The Scavenger's Daughter. Invented under Henry's watch, this iron frame compressed victims, folding them in half until bones cracked. Traitors endured up to an hour of agony, confessing just to stop the pain. Boiling and burning. Clergymen who resisted the king's supremacy took the treason route to the stake. Some were boiled alive in vats of oil or pitched before being dragged to their piers. Their screams echoed across London's waterways. Ducking stools and pranks. Disobedient women, wives and midwives, accused of gossip or witchcraft, were strapped to the wooden chairs and dropped repeatedly in the flames. The brank and iron scold bridle forced a metal gag into the mouth, preventing speech and sometimes tearing the tongue. Henry's ruthless campaign to divorce Catherine of Aragon and Mary Anne Boleyn set a precedent. Anyone who stood between the king and his desires faced a portfolio of tortures perfected over decades. 4. King Leopold II, rule 1885 to 1908. Leopold II's personal colony in the Congo turned forced labor into a machine of extermination. Hand-cutting policy. Soldiers of the Force Publique were ordered to sever the right hands of villagers failing robber quotas. Women and children were not spared. Empty hands were proof. Troops returned body parts in baskets to avoid wasting bullets. Hostage families. Chiefs who resisted had children held as hostages. Villages complied of terror. Ransoms weren't set in money but in labor. Months of robber collection under the threat of public execution. Sexual violence and starvation. Officers systematically raped Congolese women. Pregnant women miscarried in labor camps. Starvation was rampant. Workers received half rations while officers dined lavishly. Mortality rates soared. Millions perished from exhaustion, disease, or bullets. International exposés by missionaries and journalists finally forced the Belgian government to annex the territory in 1908. By then, the population had shrunk by an estimated 50%. Leopold's legacy stands as one of colonialism's darkest chapters. So there you have it. 4 rulers whose cruelty kept their power. Which chapter of this content shocked you the most? If you found this exploration into royal cruelty compelling, I really would appreciate a like, a sub, so you don't miss out on the next week's content. And with that, always remember, with every video you watch, the more you know. See you next time. Bye.